Happy Monday, friends. I don't know about you, but for me, the past week felt especially heavy. It felt especially chaotic. There are so many things happening all around us right now, and one of my personal favorite traits about Libra is an ability to create beauty or harmony in the midst of chaos. And we got a little taste of that this week, especially those of us who are Taylor Swift fans, by the release of her new album. And I want to talk about some things that we all, whether you're a Swiftie or not, can learn from her as we think about what it means to be successful as a professional, as a business person, as a leader. There's so many things that we can learn from her. I do want to just take a moment, though, to say if you're feeling this heaviness, if you're feeling the chaos, if you're feeling all the crazy of what's going on all around us right now, you're not alone in that. Many of us are feeling it. It is chaotic. It is hard to navigate. There are just so many things going on right now that are very, very challenging to know what to do with. That's not going to be the point of today's episode, but I want to be really clear that this kind of levity, lightheartedness is happening in the midst of things that are not lighthearted, things that do feel heavy. And that actually brings me to the first thing that I noticed in this is Taylor embraces complexity, right? And everything that she does, her albums aren't monolithic. There's not one single theme to the songs. You think about what she was going through at the time of her Eras tour, where here she had the highest grossing musical tour by nearly double of any tour in history. The number 2 was Coldplay, and it came in at like $1.14 billion gross. Taylor's was over $2 billion. It wasn't quite double, but it was very close to double the next highest grossing tour. So here she's having this wildly successful tour, growing her business, growing her brand, growing her identity, growing as a human. And in the midst of that, she's also navigating buying back her records, navigating feelings associated with that, navigating huge amounts of criticism, navigating betrayal by people who she was really close to. And her album that she just came out with, I think, embraces the complexity of those things. Also, she was falling in love during that time. So you have these like really high highs and then these fairly low lows going on. And her album brings both in. And I really appreciate that. For me, I felt like she's in her raw girl era. Like just very, I think that's the best word that I can come up with when I think about it is it's raw, it's emotional, it's got the high, it's got the low, it's got everything in between. But she embraces complexity. And that's something that a lot of times I think we show up at work thinking that we need to be one way, thinking that there's one set of emotions, there's one appropriate way to show up. And the reality is all of us are navigating multiple things at the same time. Right now, we are navigating political shifts, not only in the US, but across the world, that are shaking us to our cores. We can't pretend like that's not happening. We can't pretend like what's going on around us isn't impacting us. If we do, we're not being honest with who we are in this moment. I think it's really important for us that we do embrace the complexity, that we embrace the complexity of, even last week, we wrapped up a project at work that I am insanely proud of. And I don't know if it had the impact that we wanted it to have. There's these complexities of being both proud and unsure. Those are things that we all need to be able to navigate and hold space for the both and. Another thing I noticed in watching, I did go to the release party, and watching that, and I know this is a highly curated film, but even in that, you see Taylor surrounding herself by people who tell her the truth. There's a moment where she's with, I think it's her choreographer, and she's talking about, she does this like falling off of a plank thing. And she's talking about it. She's looking at it. She goes, I fell a beat too late. And the choreographer goes, yeah, you did. And they go and they do it again. And I love this, that there was no, like, nobody was pandering to her feelings. Nobody was going, oh, no, it's okay. No big deal. Just, yeah, you did. All right, go do it again. Get it on beat. Let's go. I loved that. I thought that was so good, because I think so often we try to beat around the bush when we are giving people feedback, but feedback, honest and truthful feedback, can help people grow. Right? If she kept that video where she fell off beat, it wouldn't be to her standard of perfection. There's another scene where she's in the dressing room and she's looking at it, and they had taken this really great shot, and she goes, that shot is perfect. I can do better. And nobody around her went, oh, we got to do this again. They all went, all right, let's go. Let's take another take. I loved that. I thought that was so cool, because here you have something that was really good, and she requires perfection from herself. And you can see this in her birth chart. It's really cool. She has 4 planets in Capricorn. We don't know her exact birth time. Some people say she's Scorpio rising. Some say Capricorn rising. They both fit. But even without that, she has this really strong Capricorn placement where she is like, no, let's get to the tippy top of the mountain. Let's do this the absolute best that we can. And she has surrounded herself with people who are willing to help her get there. I think that's incredible. Along with that, this is kind of 2 different things, but they go hand in hand. She also allows her people to do what they do best. In that same dressing room scene, they're talking about what they're doing, and one of the dancers goes, oh, what if I do this? And the other one goes, what if I do this? And she's like, yes, do that. And I love that she does this, because it's not just, it has to be 100% her way. It's, she wants perfection. She wants excellence. She has people who want the same thing, and then she allows them to do what they do best. Through the whole thing, she's saying, here's my vision, here's my idea. And then people are going, what about this? What about that? And she's open to it. She's receiving it, and it makes the whole thing better. I think this could be one of the bigger challenges of leadership, is allowing our people to do what they do best when it's different from us. I think it's really challenging as leaders to have a vision, to think, even to feel like we know what the steps are that we need to take to get there. And yet someone else has another idea of how they want to do that. And when we allow them to, we have to release a certain amount of control and certainty. And that is hard to do. But the more that we do that, the better things are going to be overall. I think about this even with parenting. This isn't just like a work thing. Our kids have really good ideas. And there's times where we need them to just do what we say. There are times for that. And there's times where we can accept their ideas, even if we know that they're going to fail. And I think that this needs to be said more often with work as well. We need to allow our people to try things, which means sometimes we need to allow them to fail. Whether that's in parenting, in our one-on-one relationships, at work, whatever it is, trying to prevent people from failing is not always a good thing. If there's safety issues involved, sure, that could be a thing. But more often than not, it's not a safety issue. It's a pride issue. It's an ego issue. Well, it could be a whole other soapbox. I won't go on that. But this idea of allowing your people to do what they do best is really, really important. And it's hard to do. And it's hard to do because our contexts are different, right? If you're on a team where each person has a different piece of a project, sometimes that's easier than if you're on a team where everyone's kind of doing the same thing. Because then we do have more uniform expectations from one person to another, and yet we still have to find ways for people to bring in their own personality to that. I would love to know, if you're a Swiftie, I want to know what you thought of this. I want to know what you've thought about this whole release. I've heard, different forms of criticism. I think that there's some valid ones out there. And actually with that is kind of another thing, is this idea of being open to criticism. Taylor Swift is living truly as her most true self. She is living deeply as her most true self. She is embracing what it means to be her human in this moment in her life. And I think that that's incredible. And she's doing that amidst high levels of criticism. There's a line where she says in one of her songs, and I know I'm going to butcher this, but it's essentially, the more you put yourself out there, the more people are going to have negative things to say. And as business people, as professionals, we would do well to remember that, and to remember that criticism is not failure. Criticism is not failure. Feedback is not failure. Even failing isn't that bad when we don't get it right the first time, if we learn from that. I think we mistake criticism for failure. We hold ourselves back because we're afraid that we'll be criticized for things. When I look at Taylor Swift, she has used criticism to fuel her wild success. Think about the Reputation album. That came out because of how deeply she was criticized. And that album was wildly successful. I love that. That's actually one of my favorite albums. That came out at a time where I had just gone through divorce. My entire professional life as I knew it then was obliterated. The criticism that I felt was, it's funny comparing yourself to somebody like Taylor Swift, because I haven't made billions. I'm okay with that. But in my little circle, my everything fell apart. The criticism was deep. It was cutting. It hurt. And that album came out right around the same time, and it helped fuel me to take that criticism and go, you know what? Hold my beer. I went from working like 5 hours a week as a consultant to being honestly very successful in my career in about 2 years. I built the foundation of what my career has become over that 2-year period, and some of it was fueled by bitterness and resentment. I was talking with friends about this recently. I didn't live there. I didn't live in the bitterness. I didn't live in the resentment, but instead of that criticism being what held me back, it became the fuel for my fire to go, I will never be back in a position like that again. And if we can take that kind of a stance as professionals, it gives us an armor. It gives us an ability to go, you know what? I am going to live out as my true self. I am going to work as my most true self. I am going to embrace these parts of me that I have silenced for so long. And if I get criticism for that, oh, well, let people say what they're going to say. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. At one point, I had posted something on Instagram. This was, again, shortly after my divorce, where one of my kids had put a picture on my back, just a little piece of paper, and it said something like, kick me. I don't know what it said. I thought it was hilarious. My daughter was like 5 at the time, if that. I was surprised that she could even spell the words that she wrote out. And I posted it on Instagram, and it was so funny. And a woman who I had known through my ex's family posted something about how ashamed she would be if her kid had put something like that on her back. And I remember I just kept thinking Taylor Swift lyrics in my head the whole time of, all you're ever going to be is mean. And there are people like that in our lives. All that they are ever going to be is mean. If they see us laughing, if they see us enjoying, if they see us living as our most true selves, if they see us working and living in alignment with our astrological blueprint as the cosmic being that we're meant to be, they are not going to like it. They are going to feel threatened. They are going to feel offended. Oh, well, I love the phrase, it's none of my business what somebody else thinks about me. I'm not going to go out and purposefully offend somebody. But as somebody with really strong Libra placements, I have to remind myself all the time, it's none of my business what somebody else thinks or says of me. And if they are going to provide criticism, one, can I learn from that? Is that a growth opportunity for me? And two, the parts that aren't true, can I use that as fuel for my own growth? Friends, if you haven't listened to the album yet, go for it. Think about these things. Think about a woman embracing the complexity of life, surrounding herself with truth tellers, letting her people do what they do best, and using criticism to fuel her growth. And see how it sounds with that in mind. If you would like to look at your birth chart together, I would be honored to do a reading with you. I would be so honored to read your chart with you. There is so much that you can find out about who you are, who you're meant to be, about how you're going to interpret criticism, how you can actually do this in a way that's unique to your own energy that we can find in your birth chart. So there's links to do that. If you've never looked at your birth chart, if you've looked at it on your own but not with someone before, this is such a good time to do it, to really get to know, who are you? How are you meant to be going through work in life as your most true self? I would be so honored to do that with you. And if you have read your chart before, think about how can you bring beauty and harmony in the midst of the chaos that's happening all around us. There's a lot of really tough and challenging things going on right now. As you embrace your own complexity, where do you want harmony? Where do you want beauty? And how can you bring that in? So much love to you, my friends. I'll see you next week.